Hello and welcome to another week of What the Fuck Do You Want? And what a week it is. With me, I have Just Niall.
That's me.
Hello, Just Niall. How would people know your lovely voice? Because they can't see your lovely face, sadly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't do anything. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
You could really make up anything. I don't think people background check my guests. So, what would you like to do?
What would I like to do? Well, in light of its recent anniversary, or its upcoming anniversary, I'd really love to talk about...
I meant like a fake occupation, but
Oh.
if you want to get straight into it, I can bark the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just get straight into it.
Destroy my structure. It's the only thing I've got. Just Niall, what the fuck do you want?
Well, in light of its upcoming anniversary, what I would really like to do is talk about Donkey Kong Country.
Oh my, what is a Donkey Kong Country?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, I love pretending not knowing what subject matter is. Oh no, I haven't written a Google document full of notes about this at all, and played it quite a lot in childhood.
It was quite an extensive Google document. It took a number of days of reading.
Yeah, a lot of gifs.
Yeah, and, refresh myself a little bit with checking in on the game. Unfortunately, not played on the original hardware. Had to make do with the Switch online version.
NSO.
Yeah, which has lapsed. I had to do the old 7-day free trial again.
If you can just get a string of those to do a year, that would be the perfect way to do it. I thought I could do it at work on my phone with touchscreen controls via emulation, Nintendo.
I mean, nobody's got time for that. That's absolute torture.
It was fucking miserable. So I got the mini SNES because I don't want to call it an SNES every time we mention it.
No,
it's a SNES.
No, we need to establish this from the get-go. That is the correct way to reference said console. It is the SNES.
I'm glad you were able to stamp that at the start.
Yeah. I don't care what anybody else
Americans,
says.
we have no time for your bullshit.
No, you can't go for SNES. You can't go for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System or whatever other sort of long form. And putting a Z at the end of something is decidedly 90s.
Yes.
I know,
Extreme.
Yeah. It works. It works.
How do you feel about the Famicom?
I mean, that sounds like a feminine product.
Same results, yeah.
No, I don't. I mean, I've got no history. I've got no prior history. My gaming genesis starts with the SNES. Maybe the Amiga before that. A few hazy memories of the Amiga for people. I understand the Amiga was for people who were too snooty to have a Commodore 64 or something like that.
BBC Micro.
Or a BBC.
You peasant.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't my decision. It was, it was my older brother's decision. So
yeah, no disposable income at that age. I feel your pain.
Yeah, and it's incredible when you look back at some of the stuff on the Amiga. I mean, Zool. If we're going to talk about platformers, then if you talk about pre Donkey Kong platformers, then you had Zool, which I just thought was the cutting edge of everything. It was absolutely brilliant in video gaming, but you go back and it was just a massive advertisement for Chupa Chups lollies.
It's the rose-tinted glasses. Cool Spot. That's a great game with no advertisements.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very different time, clearly, but my God, that gameplay is like absolute ass. It was
but we're not
by no means
here to talk about that. We're here to talk about fantastic gameplay.
Now, there will be a lot of sidetracking. I will
Never.
caveat that. So, but Donkey Kong Country. That's what we're here to discuss.
So, according to my notes, this released globally on 18th of November 1994. And the day this upload should coincide with it, but I get a sneaking suspicion that dates aren't accurate because things kind of released around a general month rather than an exact day.
Well, imagine that. I mean, you had different regions getting things at different times, and stuff would be released in Japan and America, and then we would have to inevitably wait for the cast-offs.
I keep joking this is why Brexit happened, because we had to wait for games to get translated into German, French.
Yeah, I mean...
Just give us the American one. We don't care about the vowels that much.
Absolute shambles it was, but yeah, I mean, what were you doing in 1994?
Crying a lot, I'd imagine. I was a bit of a wimpy child.
Right, okay.
Yeah. How about you? What were you up to in 94?
I think so. That would have made me around 7 years old. And I think I'm trying to think whether or not when I got my hands on Donkey Kong Country, that is a bit of a grey area. It's quite interesting.
Definitely got it the Christmas
94.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a very spoiled child. It was probably why I was so wimpy.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, rental, or did you have the cartridge?
I had the we had the cartridge. Donkey Kong Country 2, that was a different story. That was a rental. That was a rental that went on for much longer than it should have done.
Did you try the old return a different cartridge?
Oh, no, we just... Yeah, it just got forgotten about. And then when it eventually did get returned, you had all the rental fines on top. And that was probably the game that killed any subsequent trips to Extravision. Extravision was on a sort of permanent blacklist in our house after that. But my God.
Going in on a Monday when you had a late tape. I was like, just throw it in the slot. Don't talk to anybody in the shop. Just get in there. Don't be seen. Get out again.
Yeah, shut down the membership. Change address.
Just think if you held on to it long enough, they would have closed down. You get to keep it.
Yeah. What an absolutely interesting little piece of history that would be. That means absolutely nothing probably for the majority of people listening.
We admitted we killed Extravision. It was practically us.
Yeah, I didn't even realise that Extravision didn't exist outside of Northern Ireland.
Oh, that must
did it exist in the South? Did they have it in the South? Yeah, brilliant.
I think it lasted longer in the South than the North because we're miserable fucks.
Yeah, I know.
So yes, Donkey Kong Country.
I did warn you that there would be a lot of sidetracking.
It was a reboot of the classic Donkey Kong series, which hadn't been active since around 1983. Research said it was either Donkey Kong 3 in the arcades or Donkey Kong Jr. Not Maths, on the NES or NES
or Maz if you're from Northern Ireland.
It's not how I said it.
No.
We'll play the tapes back.
I think you're trying to downplay your Northern Irish accent, which is...
I'm using my BT voice. It's serving me well so far.
Ah, okay. Well, I was a bit worried about two Northern Irish people being on the same call together, and
you do kind of lapse back into the native tongue a bit.
The accent's kind of spiraling out of control. It reminds me of when you got your brother on to do to talk about Red Dead Redemption.
Is that what we talked about? Because that felt very unscripted and like he didn't decide what he wanted.
I've never seen a podcast that would need dubbed, but I think that's a strong contender because
podcast subtitles,
yeah. When you get too many people, too many people from Northern Ireland, when you get two people from Northern Ireland, particularly from the country, it just sort of lapses into aye. Just
Those evenings are getting quite short, aren't they?
All right, back on track.
Donkey Kong Jr. Nowhere to be seen. I think he got kicked to the curb. There's a couple of theories that Donkey Kong Jr. is Donkey Kong Country's Donkey Kong's dad, and Cranky is his granddad.
Right, yeah.
I like
Cranky,
that theory.
Yeah, Cranky, supposedly the sort of antagonist of the original Donkey Kong games. Okay. Yeah, no, I like that. That's I subscribe to that little nugget of lore. That's fine. Okay.
And then yes, we get the opening screen where Cranky Kong's on top of the classic red girders playing a gramophone, and then the new shiny 3D rendered Donkey Kong drops out and starts rocking out with his boombox.
Yeah,
which hasn't aged it at all.
Couldn't have announced a changing of the guard better than if he'd jumped in and turned his baseball cap backwards and sat the wrong way around on a chair.
Visual metaphors and Rare. Well done, those people. Yeah. And yes, it was Rare that made this title. Did you have much of a history with them?
No, not. Donkey Kong Country is definitely the first the first kind of Rare game, but talk about a game in pedigree after that. It's one of those things that I really regret missing out on the N64. I definitely jumped ship to Sony at that time.
Rare's output rivaled Nintendo's.
Mm-hmm.
Like
but
Mario's.
Yeah,
oh, yes.
Go on.
I was going to say their Mario 64 rivaled by Banjo-Kazooie. Mario Kart 64 is an absolute fucking disgrace when compared to Diddy Kong Racing. They really were in their groove at this stage.
That's why I'm quite excited about reports of an N64 Mini potentially coming. Maybe.
I would hack the fuck out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like the N64 was, incredible for what it was. It's just such a big gaming gap in.
You can't see this grin on my screen, but it feels like there's a barb coming here.
No, not at all.
Oh no.
No. I was going to interject with I was trying to think off the top of my head what Rare games I knew, and then I think maybe the only other one that I really, really played the shit out of on the SNES was Killer Instinct. I mean, yeah.
I was going to say it was an NES game, but like Battletoads was how I knew them before this. The Turtles ripoff. It was fantastic.
Yeah, the notorious Battletoads. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong wakes up, goes down to the banana horde cave that exists under his treehouse, and he finds out all his bananas have been stolen by crocodiles.
The absolute shites.
Hooers.
What do they want with bananas?
That's what I'm thinking. Crocodiles eat meat.
Doesn't make sense,
They'd
does
eat
it?
Diddy Kong before they'd eat a banana, you'd imagine. And they don't even eat them. They leave them littered throughout the levels.
Awfully careless, but we're not. I don't think the plot is the strongest point of this entry into the Donkey Kong canon.
Let's see your 16-bit platformer and judge its story.
Well, yeah, it's definitely no Dark Souls. It's the lore is lacking.
There is no story in those games.
No.
Just misery.
It is, yeah. But I mean, we could talk at length about Elden Ring at the minute.
I have spent quite enough time recording about Elden Ring on podcasts. Thank you.
I was gonna suggest that you should probably look into doing a little podcast about Elden Ring.
Oh yeah, we play along Elden Ring one with somebody that refuses to listen to advice. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. That'd do wonders for the stress levels.
I mean, that in itself is an original idea all of its own.
Yeah, not stolen.
Wasn't lifted from anything.
Any TCGS related products at all.
No, certainly not.
No,
certainly not.
What about Diddy Kong? What did you think of him? He's a cool wee fella.
I've got a lot of time for Diddy Kong. Yeah, I have to say.
I'm a fan of Diddy.
Going back to it, and I guess a good time to sort of bring up general gameplay and that kind of thing. I think replaying it, it became painfully aware that Donkey Kong is incredibly slow, really lethargic, and very, very difficult to control. But
as a kid, I would have always played as Donkey.
Yeah.
As an adult, I only use him when I have to.
That's it. And that was the painful realization that I sort of made when I came back to it. So I replayed a little bit last night, and but more to the point, and probably the reason why, because I think I mentioned to you like a couple of years ago, I redid the series like from 1 to 3, and I just thought at the end of it, I was just sort of left with how incredible they are, like overall as a series. But when I was replaying it, I just
I can feel the tension.
And I've sort of sidetracked myself, and I don't even know what I'm going to say anymore. But
well, it wasn't even an interjection on my part. You just kind of wandered off and say, "Oh, wonder where this is."
Well,
going.
we can definitely this might be our first edit point coming up. But yeah, I mean, gameplay wise, definitely Diddy Kong is definitely the snappier of the two. He is easier to control, because you have this thing with the Donkey Kong games, particularly with Donkey Kong himself, this inertia, this sort of forward motion that sort of keeps you carrying on, which they sort of included in the later games. I was quite happy to see. But yeah, it is a bit of a fucker, because I always think that this game would be great for speed running because of that kind of inertia.
Yeah,
that sort of carries you along.
Because I would have crept across the levels as a kid. Yeah. And then when you've got a bit more confidence in your controller abilities, you're just barreling through, because yes, Diddy has a cartwheel, Donkey Kong rolls.
Yeah.
When you roll into an enemy, it propels you.
You get a speed boost.
Yeah. And if you meet another enemy during that boost, it just connects up and throws you. Sometimes it throws you off the side of a cliff, but you should be ready for that.
Or right into a fucking crocodile or something.
It's the spiky, the wasps. Fucking wasps in any form.
Absolute shites. But yeah, I mean, that is the one thing. I guess that's one thing that people don't get along with, is that sort of inertia, because even running, it takes a little while, I think, for him to sort of come to a stop.
You nearly need to do a roll.
That's right. Quite slow to get going, and then once you're moving. So I always thought this would be amazing for speedrunning, but I never got to that point, because the kind of screen crunch, or like that sort of distance that you can see ahead of yourself is really the thing that kills you in Donkey Kong Country, because
big time.
You just have an enemy or a fucking wasp or something off screen waiting to absolutely fucking annihilate you.
Hear them until they're fully on screen.
Just,
I don't know if you ever played the Game Boy Advance versions, but it's the same thing.
I didn't. I fucking hate. Yeah, I hate handhelds. I'm hoping to drop a few controversial things in, throughout the episode to see what gains traction, and I'll put my first one out there. I just fucking hate handhelds. I've never had a Game Boy. I've got a Switch, but I never play it handheld. I don't know, something about it.
Handhelds are for perverts. Okay, we understand. Thank you.
They're for absolute wrong'uns. And you're right. I had a Game Gear, and that's the only one you needed. I mean, like, handhelds peaked at the Game Gear. That's my second one.
Yeah, 6 AA batteries, but you did get a backlit screen, so you could actually see the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was the pinnacle, because you had to be near a plug socket and have the adapter.
That helped.
So I mean, your portability was out the window.
So you could play that horrible Sonic platformer, because I did have it on the Master System. It was not a.
Or Wonder Boy. Or Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy was good.
Only 40 levels in the game. I thought it was far more, because it took me very long to get through this originally. Yeah. I think this game was kind of a little look into what would become Rare's big obsession with collectibles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you had balloons for lives. You had your bananas, which did nothing, but if you got 100, that was another life. And the Kong letters, which also give you a life.
That's one of the joys about this game, I think, is just... It's the secret stuff for me.
Mm-hmm. Out of screen barrels.
Yeah. A little leap of faith, and maybe you might run into a secret. Or, the hidden doors and the bonus levels. And
talking of secrets, the most useless one, and apparently it was Miyamoto that wanted this included. If you press down an attack with Donkey Kong, he does that ground pound.
Totally useless.
Completely useless. But if you do it in certain places, a bunch of bananas come out of the ground. It's, brilliant.
Yeah, I know. It's I did sort of notice that, and obviously, not having the manual, I had to sort of go through a lot of button combinations to actually try and figure out last night how you could do that, because it was one of those ones where you're like, I think there was an option where you could slam the ground. Like, how the fuck do you do that?
And why would you do that?
And why would you do that? More to the point,
hit the ground.
Yeah, what was the point in this again?
The other one that got me was, and it's very nice, and I do like it as a mechanic. You can roll off platform edges and jump, and that's normally used to pick up the Kong letters. But half the time I just go, I can do this 9 times out of 10, but there's always that one time where I just drop like a brick. So I'm just going to leave it.
Absolute game changer finding that out.
It's when you see one float. How do you get that?
Yeah, another one comes to mind whenever you say that, and it's not related to the kind of jumping off the edge, but still gives you a little bit of a sort of on edge feeling. Is it Minecart Carnage? Is that the first one?
The Minecart
that you come
levels.
To one of the first. I mean, probably a good chance to segue on to the Minecart levels, which is probably arguably some of the most notorious levels in the series. I don't think I've ever managed to get that N on Minecart Carnage. Everybody can go back and play that level now.
Yes, and let us know how you get on.
And let us know how you get on, because
it's a bit of a bastard.
It's a dastardly one. And then there's a part where the track splits in two, but I've never managed to hit the lower of the 2 levels. I think you can go up top, but I think there's a sort of special prize for going along the other one. But I never
Those
managed
bits,
to nail
there
it.
are Battletoads levels that go left to right where you're on vehicles, and they just remind me of that. They are just almost as frustrating. Although you feel a bit of a bad arse once you get through it.
Yeah, those minecart levels in particular are just, they really are something else. And
Did you ever play this in 2-player?
No.
So there's 2 different modes. One where one person controls one character and one person controls the other, or you can do levels in turn. And if you die in a level and the other person gets through, they go ahead in the map and leave you behind.
I mean, I think it's a nice idea, but I don't think anybody was really ever doing it, really.
No, they were not. What reminds me of it is when you do this, player 2 plays Donkey and Diddy with a yellow tie and yellow clothes, and it's the most disgusting thing. I don't know why they didn't go with blue.
It begs the question, were sibling relations as harmonious as that in your household? Because
no,
it definitely wasn't.
I got hit with a controller because I kept winning at Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Because I'm brilliant.
You are quite good at Street Fighter, actually. You have
far too much time spent in arcades as a kid.
You have that really annoying Ryu strat lockdown that is just sort of impossible to beat. Yeah.
Corner them, beat them into submission.
Yeah.
Good life lesson. Right, we're running on time. Visuals. They're a big draw, this game. We need to talk about them. At this time when it came out, the SNES was really late in life. PlayStation was on the horizon. 16-bit, old hat, 32-bit. That's where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think their sort of approach to this was revolutionary, really, wasn't it? It was a whole sort of taking 3D models and
putting
sort of
them into sprite sheets,
importing them in.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are quite down on the look of this, and there are people that really don't like this.
I am not one of those people.
Well, my wife came in whenever I was playing this last night, and she said, "Why are you playing something that looks so shit?" And I just
That's confusing because you just came off Elden Ring.
How dare you? This is groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah, doing a wee bit of research into it. This was make or break time for Rare because they spent an absolute fortune getting the silicon graphics machines to make these. Yeah. So it's, thankfully Nintendo were kind of invested at this stage, which probably was a bit of a safety net rather than just going on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, you saw stuff like Super Mario RPG, and we talked about Killer Instinct. They did manage to got another bit of life out of the Super Nintendo with this.
Yeah, they really did. And when you sort of look at not just the character models, but the animations that are going along with it,
so gifable.
Yeah, and as well as sort of like the stages themselves and the backgrounds and things like that. It's I mean, you have Mario and that looks very nice, but this was
look at those happy clouds. Well, look at this weather effects. It changes as you move through the level.
Yeah, it's stunning stuff.
Look at that rain.
Yeah, I have to say, in terms of sort of visual appeal, I hadn't seen anything like this. I mean, probably the next or something akin to that was sort of seeing the beginnings of 3D space being explored with Star Fox. That was another kind of moment where I was like, oh my God, wow, look at that.
The future is now.
Yeah, I'm in the TV kind of thing. Yeah. We should do an episode on Star Fox. Have you done an episode on Star Fox?
Not yet. I shall get you bookmarked in.
Get me in for that, please. Talk about it.
Brief rundown of Rare, because they are not the team today that they were back then. The Stamper brothers have left. They're making Sea of Thieves, which people enjoy, but it's no Banjo-Kazooie. And Everwild apparently is happening and people have played it, but I don't know, little while in the oven. But at the time there was a team of 12 people and it took them 18 months to make this, and I just find that fucking amazing.
Well, we did mention it. You look at the space between the first one, the second one and the third one, it's like a year. You don't get development cycles like that.
No, you do not.
And they really smashed it out of the park with each one of them. I mean, what's the general consensus among the series? I enjoyed all of it. Honestly, I enjoyed every single one of them as much as the last one.
I think it generally falls 2, 1, 3 in people's popularity, but I think a lot of people...
2, 1, 3? Okay.
I think so. It's the general feeling now. 3's my favourite. 2, then 1, so it goes backwards for me, but that is just matter of preference. I think a lot of people had moved over to
Mhm.
other consoles by the time the third one was out. It's the last Super Nintendo game I remember getting is
Yeah.
DKC 3.
Wow. This is not the podcast to discuss the second and the third, but
Next year.
next year. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm bang up for that because I mean I think as a series those first three are just so incredibly joyous, and you know, everything from the visuals to the sort of creativity and how they kind of how much they gave to the sort of platforming genre as a whole. I thought about this when I was playing Astrobot, and all I could think about when I was flying my little spaceship between the stages on the little map area, all I could think of was probably Donkey Kong Country 3, where you sort of traverse the overworld, you traverse the overworld map in like a little hovercraft and things like that. And I couldn't help but think of Donkey Kong Country 3.
There is something I enjoy in video games, and I don't know why, but in that game, when you drove about, you could beep, and that tickles the shit out of me.
Absolutely.
There was a game called Rolling Hills, and you played as a sushi robot, and it had a dedicated honk button, like Goose Game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Stray as well. You know, the option to just meow. I mean, why would you be a cat? A cat?
Cat.
Bloody hell!
Pure cat.
Where did that come out of? Unexpected Northern Irishism.
Accidental. Well, we're closing on to the last bit now, Niall. Music.
Well, now we're very much in my wheelhouse with the whole music. So, yeah, obviously, David Wise, Evelyn Novakovic, I believe.
Yes, I will agree with you.
The dream team.
I was going to go with Emlyn Fisher because it was easier to say.
Oh, yeah. I should have gone with that. But, yeah, I can be corrected on my pronunciation or stress there.
Oh, good. You're on all social media so people can yell at you.
Yeah, exactly. An absolutely fascinating sort of topic in itself. And there's YouTube videos that do so much better job at explaining, you know, how absolutely
then we will rush through it in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, give it 2 minutes at the end of a half-baked podcast. But yeah, I mean, I just think that they knocked it out of the park, both with the visuals and with the music, and I think both things combined sort of really elevated this well above anything else that really been seen.
Character, the
it does.
simian segue.
Which one
between
is
levels?
Which one is Simian Segue? Can you sing it for me?
I can't sing it for you at the moment because I can't even talk in tune. But you know the tune that plays when you're on the overworld map,
Yes.
the first one?
Yeah, so bouncy,
Yeah.
so lighthearted. Yeah, and obviously you have like standout moments. Oh, I don't know, what would you say? What's your favorite track out of everything?
Aquatic ambience one.
Aquatic ambience. I
And
knew you were gonna say that.
Supported because of fucking YouTubers around the globe all use it as background music.
Yeah, that's right. I see it popping up on like certain like Instagram reels and stuff like that. And
But
yeah,
all of
it's
it.
everywhere.
Even we were talking about the animals earlier, like the mounts. 5 of them, we didn't really give them the love they deserved, but they all have bonus rooms.
Yes.
And even I think it's the bonus room Blitz. It is another work of perfection.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, but nothing can really beat the end boss battle for me, the King K. Rool.
That and the credits are superb. That is like a reward for getting to the end of the game.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it is so important with a platformer that the music is totally on point. It is such a big part of it.
Especially as a kid, when you're going to have to repeat levels, it makes it that much more enjoyable. And if you hated the music, it would be frustrating.
And that's the beauty. Like nothing ever really gets to the point where it becomes irritating or annoying, because that was such a massive part of playing those games. You were going to be grinding on that same fucking level for weeks on end. And yeah, it was such a long, protracted process. But yeah, it just speaks volumes that the music never gets irritating. To this day, going back to it is just, it still elicits that sort of sense of nostalgia, and all of those sort of memories come rushing back. And I remember everything. I remember like
as soon
and
as
it
you
just
hear
stays
the
in my
track,
head.
It's just, I remember where I was sitting 30 years previously, thanks to this.
Yeah.
I did notice, because I was going through the credits, because as we mentioned, 2 composers, and I wasn't going to put their tracks head to head to see which one is better. That's too cruel.
Mm-hmm.
One got me that stuck out was Funky's theme.
Oh my God.
So Funky Kong.
Yeah. That's a banger.
That is a banger, but he had like that fast travel system, seemed to be his role in the first game.
Yeah.
That was a Killer Instinct track that was on the cutting room floor and they put into this game. I was wondering why it had a different composer to the rest of the game.
I think when you pointed that out and I went to kind of check that out, I was like, Jesus, this goes unexpectedly hard for this game.
As I read that it was considered to be a Killer Instinct track. It was, of course it was.
So
what else could it fucking be?
Doesn't it? Yeah, it really does. Who was the composer behind that? Was it David or Evelyn?
Oh, for Funky Kong's track?
Mm-hmm.
It was another composer for Rare.
Another one?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
So I did not leave that in my notes. How professional.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But
will we wrap this up and get to what the fuck do you want?
Absolutely.
I think we've gushed enough. So Niall, what would you like in future from Donkey Kong Country? Because Nintendo seem to want to celebrate this fucking milestone of 30 years with a remake of the Wii game.
Yeah, it's disappointing for Nintendo, really, isn't it? We're definitely in the wind up stages of the Switch.
Who wanted Xenoblade Chronicles X?
The less, well,
I think it's extra sickening too, because I've recently started the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake,
mm-hmm.
and it is gorgeous.
Yeah,
and it's just please give that kind of treatment to Donkey Kong Country. Just brush it up, keep it as it is.
Well, I mean, those are games for nerds, really. So
yes, I get it. I'm a virgin. Thank you.
Shut-ins. That third comment to get the nerds foaming at the mouth. No, I think we're definitely in the wind-up stages. So let's hope that the Switch 2, or whatever it will be known as, I'm sure
Super Switch.
Nintendo have it in them to come up with a really good name, I think. You know,
they just call it the stationery. It sits behind your TV and doesn't do anything.
Yeah. But, I mean, it would be nice to see something. Tropical Freeze was a joy,
mm-hmm.
I think. I really, really enjoyed that. I think it's hard to know what to do for a Donkey Kong Country or a Donkey Kong-inspired platformer in this kind of console generation, but Tropical Freeze definitely hit the right notes for me. Some great, amazing creativity. But really, I want to see something new. I mean, that was Wii U after all, and now what are they giving us? Something that came out on the Wii.
Retro is kind of busy with Prime 4, so I don't think they're going back to Donkey Kong Land.
Yeah, you know, I can't help but hear the unmistakable sounds of a barrel being scraped absolutely dry at the moment. But, you know, it'd be great to get a nice new Donkey Kong Country game for the new console, to really get behind it again. I mean, think of the absolute bangers that were produced 1 through 3, then a little resurgence. I think Tropical Freeze was wicked.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be just, let's get the old team back together. Let's get
Microsoft
lovely soundtrack
are putting their games everywhere. Let them make a Donkey Kong game and bring it over.
Yeah.
Rare's doing nothing at the minute. I refuse that any of these games actually exist anymore. Even the Playtonic guys are remaking Yooka-Laylee. So,
and we live in an age
Kong.
of, you know, it's the era of the reunion. So, you know, if Oasis can put their differences aside for millions and millions of pounds, then surely we can get an award-winning game studio back together.
I would love if it was just the case Miyamoto is like Liam Gallagher of game development.
Yeah.
It's just that hard to work with.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
well, I agree. I would like Donkey Kong Country 4, 2D platformer, gorgeous. Maybe throw in a bit of Metroidvania because they're popular at the moment. And lots and lots of different characters. Throw in all the Kongs.
Yeah, I've always thought that a Metroidvania, you know, they've done like Mario RPGs, and like Mario has crossed into like different sort of game genres and things like that. So
kind of done it all now.
You know, why not have a Donkey Kong Metroidvania style? That, yeah. I mean, the door's wide open for
money on the table, Nintendo.
Money on the fucking table, man. Just get it done, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, it's like Wind Waker on the Switch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, I'm glad to say you have no books to plug. You've no upcoming plays, no movies.
No, I've got nothing.
No.
Don't call.
Thank
don't
fuck.
write. I don't want to hear from you.
Not even a fan of social media?
No, that's bad news, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I might throw a link to a YouTube channel that I might update with some guitar playing and things like that, and the things that interest me. But
Well, if that materializes, dear listener, it'll be in show notes. Do please check it out.
please do.
But anything to add before we wrap it up?
No, this has been lovely.
Oh, it's been delightful. You normally
know.
avoid conversation with me at the best of times.
Yeah, it's better when you can put about 200 miles of distance between it and a kind of computer.
You can't smell a
I
podcast.
find that to be the preferable method. Yeah, it's been wonderful. And, this is my first podcast. So,
Well done.
Podcast
Congratulations. You've done brilliantly.
thank you very much.
But you better do better on the next one. So, just Niall, until next time, get fucked.